No programming, no understanding what this means, the golf ball means. There's no understanding. They're dumb. Look, but don't let them make you more dumb. That's what people do. How many people is that eating today? 50 million. Look at 50 million. Look at them. Look at them all hanging in cloud nine. 50 million don't know how to hit a golf ball. Only one guy in the world does. One. You're looking at him.
Hey, it's Todd Graves, and I thought it might be a good time to sit down. With the pandemic that's going on, and us finally having some time to really evaluate some of the projects we're working on, we have had numerous discussions about the Feeling of Greatness documentary, and I'm sitting here with Nathan Edwards, the producer for the film, and I thought it might be a good time that we just reviewed all the stuff we've been doing, what's going on with the project. We've been talking about it, and we talk about it all the time, but a lot of people don't know where the project is. This is our third year. We've been working on it for 2 years.
Yep.
How many interviews do we have now? And by the way, let's just go into all the stuff that we've been doing over the last 2 years.
Yeah,
and let's
the
just kind of
the journey of it all.
Let's just kind of give everybody an idea of what it has been like to make this documentary. I'm the executive producer. My job is generally to get the funds and keep this project moving along.
Yeah. We can't do it without you, pretty much, and then without you guys there that have donated and supported as well.
Yeah, which we, just to let you know, we've got some money invested in it. We still have money to raise to finish the project, but we have done so much in the project. We're so deep into the project and have done so much. A lot of people don't know that what goes on behind the scenes on these things.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of start. We put this project together a few years ago. We got Barry Morrow involved, who executive producer. Or he's a producer, and
He's a producer, yeah.
and he Barry Morrow. If you don't know who Barry is, he was screenwriter for Rain Man, and Barry's been a huge part of this project. He's done probably a majority of the interviews for the.
Yeah, he's done without a doubt the majority. We've had some other ones that have come in and helped us out. You and some other that have been able to step in that when we needed them, and when Barry couldn't make it. Barry has, he's a pretty busy man as well, so. He hasn't been able to do all of them, but he's done most of them, thankfully.
So, the idea behind the project was basically, look, we have this incredibly interesting character, Moe Norman, and we need to go out and capture as many stories as we can about Moe. And when you do a documentary like this, as you will explain, we don't know where it's going to go. So, how many interviews do we have so far?
It's close to 50. I didn't pull up the exact number, but it's around 45, 46, I'm pretty sure, that we were at, which is a lot. It is quite a bit. And most documentaries don't do 46 interviews. And you might wonder, why did we? A lot of it was you just didn't know, at the beginning, we didn't know what we were going to get. We didn't know how many people would be open for us to do interviews. I was leaving a lot of that up to people that knew a lot of people like you, and reaching out to guys like Tim O'Connor. And that's kind of what we did. And when we finally decided that we would go down this journey of making this documentary, once again, I was extremely excited. And I've known Moe for a long time, just working with you. And so when this all happened, we were all really excited to get involved and do it. But it was like, okay, then who do we talk to? And I remember us sitting down, and we would have meetings. We'd sit down and kind of just start going down a list of names. We would do these Zoom meetings and have Barry on and Tim O'Connor on and you, me, and anybody that we could think of, and we'd go down and start making a list. And I've got lists of names of people that we would just start throwing out, which was great. We got a whole lot of names, but then it's like, okay, now we got to find a way to get them and see if they're willing to do it. And so that's sort of that journey.
And the other thing you run into is when you do an interview, the interviewee gives you 5 more names. Maybe talk to so-and-so.
Exactly, and that's kind of what happened. We kind of went, I'll say this, there's some people who would not respond to my emails and my calls at first. And there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you that here in a minute. But, we would only we were going after who would respond. And so, and that's what we did. So we would go after those thinking, we didn't know, how, like I said, once again, we didn't know how many people would be willing for us to do the interview. And so, and then once, like Todd said, once we get the interview, they saw how great it was and our approach to Mo, and that we're trying to talk about his life, and Mo meant a lot to us, that they were like, okay, yeah. And so then they would reach out and find other people and call them up, and then they would be all on board. So that it just kept getting more and more and more. And it's kind of hard, I mean, for me as well. As long as we had the funds and the ability to go and do the interviews, I had a hard time not wanting to go get them.
Well, one of the cool things that's kind of evolving in this, and by the way, these projects take time. I mean, look, if I could have gotten this done in a month, I would have. But these things, look, lining up an interview, sometimes it takes months. Right now, we're waiting on Lee Trevino and Paul Azinger and Mike Weir, and we've had some conversation. Very hard to nail some of these people down to get interviews.
Well, I will say this: like when we did Canada, when we first went to Canada, we had 12, I think, interviews on our first trip to Canada, and because we didn't know if we were going to go again. It was going up to Canada is a big deal. To travel up there and get all my gear up there and go through customs and all that. But we want to get as many as we could. And when you do that, and that was my job, was I have to contact all of them, see what day they're available and what time they're available. So it was always, okay, are you available on this day? And I had to sit there and also I had to put a map and I have dots of like where these people live and where these people live and where these people live. And then we actually would find, because sometimes it's hard to have a crew come into your home and take over the space.
Well, that's all the location, right?
It was
because
location.
You can't just say, well, we'll shoot it anywhere. We're trying to make this documentary at a certain level of quality.
Yeah, and so it was either I'm either going into your house, and if I go to your house,
we're moving furniture.
Yeah, it's like, where am I going to go in that we wouldn't have to invade too much in? Because it's like we have now. We got cameras, we got lights, we got everything we had to do, and I'm coming into your home. And then I'm like, and then I got to look around and go. And luckily, I had a great DP, Spencer, who came with us, and which he saved up my life a lot on making these work, because he could walk around. He'd walk around with his camera, going, no.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And these are the ones that we did it at their home, But there's a lot that I didn't want to expect everybody have to make us come into your home, so we would get a house.
We got to tell them the story about the house in Connecticut, though.
Yeah.
So
our very first venture on this.
Because
Connecticut, yeah.
Okay, so we're trying to keep the budget, and we're trying to save some money, and we're trying to rent places out. And we find this. Was it Airbnb that you found the house on?
Airbnb, yeah.
So we find this kind of really nice place in Airbnb, and it's got a bowling alley in the house.
Yeah.
Now remember, we're putting how many people were we putting in the house?
Well, I'll go back. When we first, I didn't know much about Airbnb. Jason, one of the producers, he did, but we were going to go hotel everybody. We were, getting all that set up, and we started realizing that, well, what if we can't interview everybody there, and what if we needed a place to do an interview, as well as get everybody, and the more, once again, it's a budget thing. What can we save some money, because it's going to cost us for every hotel room for every day that we're there. And that's when Jason said Airbnb.
The one thing I love about this project so far is I love the creative atmosphere of getting the whole team together.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to realize you got some of those creative people in the industry in here, and you got you and Barry and Jason and everybody, and then you got so to me, just getting everybody in the same room to discuss the project. When everybody, when you stay in hotel rooms and everybody's kind of doing their own thing, you don't get that collaboration.
You're kind of separated, and so it was like a home environment. We all we hung out. We lived in basically lived in the living room, hung out. We would go eat together. It was just like I said, we were all together, and I'm glad that started that way, because I don't know what would have happened down the road, but that's how it eventually got to that. Because the thing is also, when we decided to go down, my job was, if I'm going to choose a home, I got to look at that home as an interview home.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so can we shoot in that house, and what's in the background? So it wasn't just just four walls and some beds and stuff. For me, it was like we had
depth of field.
We had to look at all that aspect of it as shooting there. So, yeah, it was great. I mean, it's like the crazy part was the bowling alley, and Barry was all like,
I had fun with that. But here's when we do these projects, and people don't know. Some people know, obviously, but what like we had to hire some audio guys. We usually subcontract those guys in per location, right?
Yeah.
So these guys were hilarious because that one guy had the Mercedes, that old beat up Mercedes. I mean, this thing was barely rolling.
Came in from New York, actually. He drove in.
Oh, but that thing, he lived out of that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the back, it was a station wagon type Mercedes.
Yeah.
It
had a lot of miles.
was 30
on it.
years old. I mean,
Yeah.
how old was this car? But you could tell he lived out of this thing, and it was just hilarious. Do we get any pictures of that car? Because I would love to.
I don't know, but those guys were great. I mean, I will say this: we have changed a lot from that moment and to where we are now. Because what happens is that at the beginning, we didn't know how long we were going to do it. So I will say this: we don't hire the audio guys as much anymore. A lot of that I have managed it myself to condense the cost down.
We've learned how to do some stuff.
You have to.
And we've purchased some equipment. Like we've had to kind of know what equipment we needed for this thing.
We were renting certain things, and we still do it to some extent. But like the lights, I had to start realizing I can't hire the grips and the gaffers and the trucks and all that stuff because it does cost money. And when we realized that this thing could keep going and more people were coming in that were opening up their doors to us to do the interviews, I had to think about how to cut costs to save, to keep us having enough funds to keep going down to get to the finish line as much as possible. Because it's like the cost is going to always be there for travel as one, but if you can save cost on getting everybody in one house and not having to hire a whole lot of crew, and it sucks. Trust me, I would love to hire crew all day long. It makes my life a lot easier, but there's a point where you can only do so much, and so. That's what I started doing over this time was, okay, can we cut back here if I just get this, and can we cut back if I got that? And unfortunately, that's what I had to do, but it did help us get down the road.
Yeah, and you just don't know. You just don't know. You book it. So there was times when we'd book. We're still in this process a little bit. We've gotten through most of the interviews, and we'd book airline tickets. We get everything ready to go. We're all ready to go, and then last minute, the interviewee would back out or cancel.
On it, yeah.
And now we're looking at we've scheduled our week around this interview thing.
We got to the point where it's months for me getting it ready. So when we would go to Connecticut, Florida, Canada, I had to, because the thing is, Todd's all about also. It's like, and he travels a lot, so he knows more about it. Is that you want to book a flight almost 30 days before you're going to be there, to save as much as you can on cost.
Just to educate the audience out there, 57-27 are the two rules in airline tickets. 57 days you get your biscuit, 27
I couldn't do the 57,
days.
so I was 27.
It's 57-27-14, by the way.
So I was always trying to do the 27. So I was always about 30 days out trying to have everybody scheduled on what day, what time, and how I was going to get there. Is it going to be them coming to us or we going to them? And everything had to be worked out. And like, okay, this day at this time we're having this guy in our house and this person at their house. And so I had to okay, now we got to have it wrapped up by here, because now we're going to have to pack up and be at his house by 4 and have it set up within an hour and a half and be down and get out of there.
But here's what I found. Here's just insight of what we've learned about this stuff too. And one of the things I found fascinating about doing these interviews, the people in the business understand it, and they're specifically respectful for this process. Yeah. Like Chris Berman, he knew exactly when to show up. He got it. He showed up, did a deal, boom. It was like clockwork. It's just the regular person that doesn't quite get it. Yeah. But Gary Player was interesting, because when I first was trying to figure out how to interview Gary Player, we were chatting with him. And Gary Player, yeah. We didn't get him.
Okay.
We didn't get Gary Player, but here's
we almost got him.
But here's why. Yeah. Here's why we didn't get him. I said, Gary, he goes, yeah, come interview me. I'll be in London tomorrow. Okay. That answers the question. Yeah, okay. Okay. Like, Gary, when are you coming to the United States? And now it's just, it's like, well, I won't be there till July, and then
that's a little bit of the taste of someone at his caliber, and that's kind of what we're dealing with now. I mean, Gary Player is he's
celebrity. He's
a celebrity.
Right.
He's got
he does this all the time. He gets people are bugging him all the time.
Those guys have a pretty. I believe, and how I look at it is, compared to someone, that's just a normal day job, that kind of thing. Those guys have sometimes they have assistants that schedules their day, and everything's worked out for them a lot on their schedule. So guys like us trying to step in there and go, let's interview you. It's, and I will say even the Chris Berman, just to give you an idea with him, I talked to his, assistant and we scheduled multiple times. And with that, I realized I couldn't do the 27-day. I had to go with whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
And
well,
we'll try to be there.
So this is what it's come down to now. Just like if Paul Ainsinger called us today and said I can do it, we would basically have to hop on a flight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whenever.
If he says I can do it tomorrow,
Yeah.
we would have
I don't
to
think we go to London, but
no. But I mean, at that point, you do what you got to do to make it happen. And we've gone down this road long enough now that I know that I can like set it up and make it look good and make it happen in a quick amount of time. Because in documentaries, I had to learn that you have to do that. And the feature-length drama-type movies, yeah, you got time to set up the shots and storyboard it all out. But a documentary, it's whenever they're ready, at what time, you got to get there, work out if it's at their country club, which is how we did with Peter Jacobson. And I will say this: everybody's been amazingly hospitable for us. I mean, at that country club there, everybody worked out everything.
Before we get into that, because I want to tell a story about that, but of all the interviews that we've done, so we got, and you've been there for every single one.
Yeah.
Tell me some of your favorite moments in interviews. Like, kind of what, there's been a lot, so it's probably hard to reel your mind back. But I have a couple that come out in my mind because I've only been there for maybe a third of the interviews. But tell me some of the ones that maybe it's a favorite moment or a person that you thought did a great job or just insightful stuff that you learned so far.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really tough because I will say it's been a very fun journey. There's been ones that have been, a lot of times me was the experience of what we were able to accomplish in that I didn't think we would accomplish. Some of those are my more exciting moments than a certain particular interview because to me, I'm just happy that we're getting them, and I've got whoever there to help do the interview, or if I'm having to step in and do them. But I will say this: I mean, probably the most, like I said, well, go back to what I was saying about the trips. Like Canada was a huge, I guess, achievement for me because, like I said, I scheduled, 12 interviews for a week, knowing that, we even went in, I had to tell everybody, and I even had to tell Todd a lot, we may get 6. I know that I scheduled everything, but I had to believe that there's no way I scheduled this 30 days in advance that everybody's going to stick with the plan and they're going to be available, something's not going to happen. And it all happened. Everybody was able to make it. Everything went smoothly. We got it all done. And I got 12 interviews, during that whole time. So that was a pretty fulfilling.
And the real challenge here is you got to realize that we're shooting this documentary at a very, very high quality.
Yeah.
And like people will go, yeah, I'll do an interview to set up your cell phone. No, this isn't the way we're doing this. There's a specific requirement.
So we have a look that we're trying to do.
We have a look.
And it's, like I said, that's what kind of the job of Spencer, my DP, was his job is to make sure this looked very well done, very professionally. I didn't want to look like we just set up a camera and didn't know what we were doing or just kind of making it.
And that's what you see in a lot of documentaries. Like I watch a ton of documentaries now and I think that they're becoming more popular. And,
yeah, they are.
And especially now in this whole lockdown thing, I think I've watched 10 documentaries in the last couple of weeks. And the thing about it is I look for quality now in these things. I look for production quality. And I'll look at it and go, and I kind of lose myself into what they did to shoot certain
process,
things.
Or how they doing that, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so I'll see stuff like, they had to get this in there and they just threw it in there,
Yeah.
Versus, like something that has more legs maybe or took some more time or
yeah,
more
you can see,
preparation.
we also went into knowing that documentaries are getting more popularity now. They're done at a more higher level and there's a lot more creative people getting involved in the documentary field that are really doing the story.
Yeah.
And we all discussed that is that if I'm going to do this, I want to make it something that's really well done. And there's been some documentaries about Mo that are great. They're great documentaries. But I just wanted to take it to a different level and really find as many people that knew Mo as possible. I didn't want to go after the people that, and there's some of that we did do, but people just having stories about Mo. There's thousands of people that have heard a story about Mo, but I wanted to go after the people that were with him and can tell me personal hands-on, because that's what you want to do with a documentary. But and that's why that's why we've got so many. We just kept going and going and going.
So one of the things that So I'll say my 3 favorite interviews.
Yeah.
Because,
And I'll finish the one I was going to tell you.
and keep in mind that I wasn't there for all of them. So
Right.
so I haven't seen. There's probably 20 that I haven't even seen.
Yeah.
Right. So Henry Brunton.
Yeah.
I love Henry. If you don't know Henry, he's actually a good friend of mine. But he's down in Orlando, Florida. He's a well-known instructor. He knew Mo really well. And Henry had some great insight of Mo's. I don't want to give it all away, but he had some great insight. Of course, you had to love Artie McNichol, because Artie, tour player, competed with Mo, was behind the ropes with Mo. Not a lot of people can say that they were playing inside the ropes of tournaments with Mo Norman.
Yeah.
I don't know, they're not alive anymore, or they're just hard to find.
Yeah.
So he was great as far as that. And of course, my favorite of all time so far was Peter Jacobsen.
Yeah.
And Peter, just to tell you the story about Peter Jacobsen, and I just a shout out to him, how gracious he was. You know, Peter, when like what Nate was talking about, how difficult it is to get these interviews, to get people to call you back, to contact. Mike Weir has called me back. We're in conversation. We still haven't nailed it down.
No.
It's hard because people's schedules. We got to fly the crew. We got to get our crew together. We got it's
Right.
Peter Jacobsen. I didn't know Peter personally. I knew a good friend of his. I had his friend. I said, hey, can you give Peter a call? I'd love to get him in an interview. Literally 5 minutes after I talked to my friend who knew Peter, Peter called me and said, hey, Todd, I heard you want to do an interview.
Yeah.
Let's do it next week.
Yeah.
I mean, literally that fast.
And then that's when Todd's calling me going, how about next week?
How about next week?
And I'm like,
and we couldn't
okay.
get it pledged. And then Peter goes, well, then how about, I said, where do you live? He told me where he lived. He goes, just come down to my club. We flew down 2 weeks later and did an absolutely fantastic. And he came in there. We had a great time.
That was great. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
So there's just, just things like that make our lives so much easier.
In a lot of ways, most of it's been that way. I mean, we really have had a great, I'm going to probably be like, doing another one down the road, and it's going to be nothing like this, and I'm going to be like, what's going on, because I'm so used to everybody being open. And I think a lot of that is the Mo, is that everybody's so gracious about Mo and loves the guy so much that when they are hearing about what we're doing, that, they want to be a part of it. And I think that's also what's changed a lot of where we've gathered more people, is that, like I said, people start enjoying it when we're sitting here with Barry and Todd, and everybody that's there talking, and realize how great and fun it is to sit there and talk about Mo, that they, then they realize, well, who else do you need? And we're going to, they do what they got to do to help us out. This
may end up being a two-part piece with you, because what did you tell me the other day that you couldn't wait to produce? And I don't want to put you on the spot here, but remember how everybody tries to imitate Mo? Oh. So tell them that story about so Nate calls me on the phone.
Well, as we've been doing this, and as we're, like I said, going through each interview, I think it's been almost impossible for anybody to not, when they're telling their story about Mo, and they start talking about Mo, to talk like Mo. Everybody talks like Mo, and so
they can't help it.
And they can't help it. And even to, I think one interview, one guy goes, I'm not going to talk like Mo. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to talk like him. And then eventually, he, without realizing it,
he was talking like Mo.
He started talking like Mo. And
it happens every time.
And we already had realized, I realized, early on, that I was like, we're going to have a piece in this film of everybody somehow in it, doing all their little bits. The Mo clip of everybody talking like Mo.
Who is no question that Kelly Murray, basically he could be Mo Norman.
Yeah.
Kelly Murray was like, that's Mo
Kelly
Norman.
was a little bit almost too Mo.
And the fairways back then were long, not manicured like today. Ooh, they were long. Today they're here, but then it was like that. You couldn't stop it. I was watching the guys after I teed off. I was watching the guys on 8. They're putting from the back of the green. Ooh, it's a birdie hole, and they're trying to make par. You get to a tough hole, you see, you watch. The guys are going to be backing off their drivers. They're going to be pulling out 3-woods and 1-irons and 4-woods, and they're going to be feeling defensive. Ooh, he's just coming in from the other side, pal. Coming in from the other side. Start with your wedge.
And I was like, the guy is like an incarnation of Mo. So yeah, he definitely has him down. Which you told me
I love Kelly.
When we were getting that set up and going there, you were giving me.
Kelly's fantastic.
He's like he's the best Mo guy, and sure enough, when he got there and he kept doing that, the hand.
He's fantastic.
It's not just the voice; he does it
gestures,
all. He does
gestures,
the whole
all the facial
impersonation of
expressions,
the guy. So he's got him down pretty good. But it was pretty funny seeing everybody pull out a little bit of and doing the whole Mo thing, and and we realize that that's going to have to be in the film if everybody.
So
to
me, the sad thing about all of this is, and we were talking about this yesterday, is we're going. We'll talk about where the project is right now, but is where you can't use everything. Like you can only use so much. How does that work? I mean, you
Well, I mean, that's the tough part of it. As we kept going on, I mean, we've talked to other people that have done documentaries, and when I tell them we've got almost 50 interviews, they're like, "What?
What are you going to do with all that?"
It's like, are you kidding me? So it's a very uncommon to have that many interviews, and so it is going to be tough because we do know that everybody we interview is going to be hoping that they might be in the film.
But there's also, you're going to build a storyline out of the documentary. You only have 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, if this is a 10-part series, we might be able to get everybody in.
So, my plan is to create podcasts and do other things with these interviews so people can hear all the stories.
We do have that plan, and that's kind of what we did talk about. We realized we had so much interviews, and like I said, most of the interviews are about an hour, and some are up to 2 hours. So if you think about that, it's like... look at just do the math of taking 45 to 50 people and times an hour to 2, and that's a lot. So we realized that there's a lot there, and we knew that there may be a lot of, we feel there's a lot of people who would love to hear all that information.
The other thing I want to throw out here, because I don't know who's going to be watching this show here, but we have spent an enormous amount of time finding the archives of Moe Norman. We went to the Canadian Hall of Fame at Glen Abbey. Yeah. We spent a week there digging through, and we found a lot of stuff.
Yeah, which was, once again,
but we know there's still stuff out there that we'd love to have.
No, it's stuff, I mean, it's like, for instance, you have no idea, I mean, we realized that I'm constantly searching for stuff for this film. And just recently I got introduced to there's a Facebook page that's devoted to Moe fans, basically. There's people in there that are saying that they've seen footage of Moe, or like one guy's claimed that he's seen that there's footage of Moe at the Masters. You have no idea. I've been looking for footage of Moe for the Masters, but I don't believe there's anything out there. But I don't know.
I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been doing this a long time. Yeah. I've been doing this a long time, and look, I haven't seen everything, of course, but there's hardly stuff I haven't come across.
No.
And
but I'm at the same time going, if you've got it, I want to see it. If it's really there, and it might have been like he thought it was the Masters. It might not have been the Masters. Right. But at the same time, there's another guy that's on there that's got some footage that he's posted that you've never seen, I never seen. So once again, it's like, for all you out there that are watching, if you know some places,
well, if you have the footage,
or have it,
contact us.
I will make it as easy, as convenient, as safe as possible to either get it from you or go have it copied for you.
Let's do it, because we want to make this thing. We have to make this thing great. Yeah. It's going to be great, but with some of that stuff, it gets even better.
It's tough, and with that is that's the next phase of what we're doing in post, and that it's we haven't once we get the story more finalized, the next phase that I'm talking about will be more into it. But we got to think about it is, there's going to be stories that we don't have visuals to show unless we get stuff that maybe other people might be able to provide for us, but. Then we have to recreate it in some way, visually sometimes, because you can't just always show the people talking.
Well, let's talk about that. So right now, we're in post-production. Post-production is we've gotten most of the stuff we need to produce.
And it's a time process of the post. I mean, the interviews have been great. You go around and gather the material, and a lot of that is, you work, like we talked about, you set up the schedules, you shoot it, but when you're done that day, you're done. You got the footage on a drive, and you copy it to a hard drive that we have it in 3 different places. I have it in New York, I've got one here, and I got one at my house. I got to protect this stuff, but it's like now we have it, and then we're going to go through it. But that's the time process part of going through all that footage and going through and deciding. And so you got all these talking heads and stuff like that, but you got to know when to cover that up with something. And so we might have to eventually go with animation. Reenactments.
Well, explain because let's explain about what post-production even is, because you were telling me yesterday, which I like hearing you talk about this because you give me insight on what you're going through. But just think if you had 50 interviews, an hour each, telling stories about Moe, you got to catalog this stuff somewhere, and it's usually in your head. Yeah, he's got a catalog because let's say, for example, interview 1 says a story about Moe in a Cadillac. And then story 15 interview 15 tells another story about a Cadillac.
Yeah.
You got to string these things
Yes.
together,
Yeah.
and in your head you got to go, oh yeah, back when
You basically
Artie said this.
like
or-
for instance, I talked to Barry last week, kind of seeing where he's at, what's going on because of the pandemic here, and we ended up talking, and and it's something I was telling Todd about is that, you know, what you got to realize is that we got to take, like for instance, you know, I've done some pieces for Todd, and that's one person, okay, and it's about an hour-long interview, and I'm making a piece of it, but I have to watch that over and over, and I'm making notes of what they're saying, and I'm making these keywords, and I got to watch it enough that I got to know almost the whole interview in my head, so that I can move the story and take this here and make it here to make the story what I want to make in this short amount of time. And that's what we're doing with 50 interviews. And so we have to go through all 50 of them, keyword them, all what they're talking about, and know everything about all these to know, okay, we need to pull that from here, and that guy said it too, and she said it here, and they said it there, and try to put this stuff together to tell a story that's 90 minutes that you guys are going to want to watch and enjoy. And so we have to nitpick little things, and it may from this 1 hour,
Oh, 1 second sound
1
bite.
hour interview, we're going to take
1 second.
you know, like 10 seconds of that or less.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all we're going to get from that one guy, even though we interviewed an hour.
And it's funny,
half.
and it's funny about that 10-second thing or that 5-second thing because I know that when I'm doing interviews, we'll be talking, telling stories, and then that interview, they'll say a sound bite that we're like.
Yeah.
I mean, and
We'll look at each other.
And by the way,
You know,
when
yeah.
you're interviewing somebody, you don't want to.
No.
I don't want to interrupt because they're telling the story. So I'm like, my face, all face. You know, I'm trying to engage them. And I'm like, that was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge. You
Yeah.
know, that was great.
Well,
yeah.
behind the camera, I'm looking over at, you know, the other guys and going,
Going, that's big.
That's
That's
good,
big.
that's good.
And you know that and it's like that could end the film. That could be the conclusion for the. You know, you think it in your head.
So you
yeah.
got, you know, you're almost cataloging it there, but you
Yeah.
know, but we have to. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I've been trying to explain to Todd, and that way the other people that probably I've been getting emails from guys going, hey, is this film done yet? Where's it at? And I've been telling them, no, we're still working on it. Thanks for reaching out and asking about it. And I know you guys are all eager to get it, and I've had to learn myself on the documentary process that, you know, I wish we could get it done in a month and have it done. But the really good ones that I've been discovering that are really, really done really well, it's taken them
Well,
a long
and keep
time.
in mind that and we'll probably do a couple of these conversations here as we go through this project. But keep in mind that I'm willing to be patient on this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't want to produce this thing because this thing's going to be a forever type film.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not. You know, every film is a forever type film, but I want this thing to be this incredible piece to tell stories about Moe Norman. I want it to be this definitive piece, and I don't want to miss something. And the longer we go, getting a Lee Trevino and a Paul Azinger and those guys, it lets us have time to get those. We may not get them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
right.
but hey, it gives us a little more time to get there. So I don't mind being patient on this. I think that's an okay thing.
Well, it gets to the point we want to get it done. That's true. We don't want this being stretched out forever, but at the same time, we want it done right and done as well as we can. And sometimes that's going to take a while, especially if we're doing, you know, we have to think about if we do throw animation or even reenactments, we got to shoot that. I got to create that. And we have to wait until we get the story done so we know what we're going to go shoot, because we can't waste money just shooting stuff and then hoping that we use it in the film. So you're going to have to wait until you get your structure down, and then it's like, okay, here's the spots that we would like to shoot this for or recreate this for. So then that's going to take its time as you make that. So, you know.
Well, and one of the things, and we'll have another, in 2 weeks, we'll sit back down and see where we're at. But if you're interested, because I know some of you that are just new to this project, if you want to go to our website, thefeelingofgreatness.com, check it out. Talks about the project, goes through who's involved. It also has a donation link. You get certain things for different types of donation. We put a bunch of stuff in there for donations. So we're still taking donations on the film. We still got a budget we got to come up with for all this work that you're doing on the film. So please go make a donation if you feel so inclined.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to talk about it. We're going to keep you updated on the project.
We're hoping to do this more often. I realize that we're at the stage that we're not shooting as much, so Todd doesn't have as much to kind of throw out there for you guys to see that we're traveling or doing things, and so a lot of it's just me and and Jason in our cage, you know, just
Well,
going through the footage.
and we're doing this because we want you to see. We also want you to see that. And even I have to come to these guys and go, what's going on with the project? What's happening? Because a lot of stuff's going on behind the scenes that I don't even know, and I love to hear the update. So we're going to keep updating you.
I'm going to try to make sure I'm stepping up, you know, being, you know, director here to try to give you guys a little bit more of what's going on, and that way you guys are not more in the loop of what's happening. So I'm hoping to be doing this more with Todd, as well as maybe doing some of my own that
we'll get Barry in here, we'll get Jason in here,
Yeah.
and we'll just, as we go through the
and like I said, and then, you know, once again, if you guys, you know, if there's some questions that you guys have, by all means, that you guys are wanting to ask me or Todd or all of us, send them.
That'd be great.
And I'll ask them.
That'd be great.
Answer
So
them.
do that. Send the questions in, because what we can do is we'll do a Q&A session on the project. Because I mean, people, I get questions all the time. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So like I said, just keep that in mind. But yeah, this is something that we're hoping that we're going to continue to keep doing for you guys. And we talked about it yesterday, and look forward to doing the next one. So
Thanks for joining us.
thanks.